Hi, my name is Sandra. I am a chef. I love being in the kitchen. I chop vegetables with care. Fresh ingredients are the key to good food. I always keep my knife sharp. The smell of garlic fills the air. I cook with passion every day. The kitchen is my happy place. I enjoy trying new recipes. The stove is where the magic happens. I season my food just right. I love the sound of chopping onions. Cooking is both an art and a science. I enjoy preparing meals for others. I always wash my hands before cooking. The kitchen is where I get creative. I make sure my ingredients are fresh. I enjoy baking as much as cooking. I love the aroma of food cooking. The kitchen is always organized. I chop carefully to avoid cuts. I prepare each dish with love. I taste my sauce before serving. I love the sound of sizzling food. I use the right tool for every job. I marinate the meat to make it tender. The kitchen smells wonderful when I cook. I make sure the flavors are balanced. I enjoy making desserts too. I handle the knife with care. I cook meals that bring people together. I prepare food that makes people smile. I always try new techniques in cooking. I make my own sauces from scratch. I garnish my dishes with fresh herbs. I set up my ingredients before I start cooking. I keep my knife at the right angle when chopping. I enjoy creating meals that look as good as they taste. I always use fresh spices for better flavor. I love cooking for family and friends. I experiment with different flavors. I check my recipe before I begin. I always work with a clean cutting board. I plate my food with care and detail. I make sure every dish is full of flavor. I use the knife to slice meat perfectly. The cutting board is my workspace. I chop garlic into tiny pieces. I love the smell of fresh bread baking. I measure my ingredients carefully. The kitchen is full of energy when I cook. I stir the pot to mix the flavors. I make sure the pan is hot before I add oil. I love making pasta from scratch. I use butter to add richness to my dishes. I grill vegetables to bring out their sweetness. I always taste my food while cooking. I arrange the food neatly on the plate. I prepare sauces to go with every meal. I use a sharp knife for smooth cuts. I handle hot pans with caution. I clean my knives after each use. I make sure the oven is preheated before baking. I saute onions until they turn golden. I love making soups in large pots. I blend ingredients together for a smooth texture. I check the doneness of meat with a thermometer. I chop herbs to sprinkle over my dishes. I always keep my kitchen tools organized. I simmer sauces to develop deep flavors. I use olive oil for a light and healthy touch. I grill meat to perfection. I plate my dishes with a touch of creativity. I love the crunch of fresh vegetables. I make sure the flavors are balanced in every dish. I chop carrots into small, even pieces. I steam vegetables to keep them healthy and crisp. I use a whisk to mix my ingredients smoothly. I chop onions finely to add flavor to my sauces. I love making salads with fresh greens. I cook rice until it's fluffy and light. I always use fresh lemons for a bright flavor. I prepare my pans with oil before cooking. I use a wooden spoon to stir my soups. I make sure my knives are stored safely. I love to grill fish with a squeeze of lemon. I cut potatoes evenly for roasting. I create sauces with rich, bold flavors. I use fresh vegetables from the garden. I always keep my pantry stocked with spices. I check the doneness of bread by tapping the crust. I chop vegetables quickly but carefully. I fry eggs until the edges are crispy. I love making comfort food for family dinners. I stir sauces gently to prevent them from burning. I use parchment paper when baking cookies. I test the flavors of my dishes before serving. I love making smoothies with fresh fruits. I always add a pinch of salt to enhance flavors. I love the sound of dough kneading. I prepare my utensils before I start cooking. I store herbs in a cool, dry place to keep them fresh. I use a meat thermometer to ensure everything is cooked perfectly. I chop bell peppers into thin strips for stir fries. I love making my own salad dressings from scratch. I organize my spices by flavor and color. I use a food processor to blend sauces quickly. I grill chicken until it's tender and juicy. I love using citrus zest to add brightness to dishes. I always wash my vegetables before cooking. I use a rolling pin to flatten dough for pastries. I add a squeeze of lemon to finish many dishes. I love the process of slow cooking meats. I use fresh ground pepper for a more intense flavor. I clean my kitchen thoroughly after every meal. I preheat my pans for even cooking. I roast garlic to bring out its natural sweetness. I love garnishing dishes with edible flowers. I add a dash of vinegar for a hint of acidity. I use tongs to handle hot foods safely. I enjoy making homemade pizza dough. I sauté mushrooms until they are golden and tender. I always taste my food to make sure the flavors are balanced. I bake my cakes until the tops are golden. I whisk eggs until they are light and fluffy. I caramelize onions to add sweetness to savory dishes. I prepare fresh herbs to sprinkle over my meals. I enjoy experimenting with new spices. I cook with olive oil for its smooth flavor. I love using fresh tomatoes in my sauces. I always check my dish for seasoning before serving. I create delicious meals that bring smiles to people's faces. I grill vegetables to bring out their natural sweetness. I use butter to add richness to my dishes. I love making soups on cold days. I fry eggs until the edges are crispy. I prepare sauces that complement every meal. I always keep my kitchen tools organized. I chop vegetables evenly for better cooking. I love the aroma of freshly baked bread. I use fresh lemons to brighten up my dishes. I cook pasta until it's perfectly al dente. I stir sauces to ensure they don't burn. I garnish my dishes with fresh herbs for a pop of color. I love grilling fish with a touch of lemon. I organize my pantry to find ingredients easily. I steam vegetables to keep them healthy and crisp. I use a sharp knife to slice meat perfectly. I love creating meals that bring people together. I use a whisk to mix my ingredients smoothly.